balls!
I want to start out by saying how freaking awesome this game is. Quite literally, Dragon Ball Advanced Adventure is just the drink you need if you want to wash out the taste of bad Dragon Ball games. Usually when you hear people talk about what the best Dragon Ball game is, they'll usually name one of the PS2 titles, or if you've got a comedian on your hands, one of the newer games like Xenoverse, but you rarely see folks talk about this game, and I think it's largely because not a lot of people have played it, and it's not a fighting game. I hope to educate all the Dragon Ball loving folks out there just how damn good this game really is, and why I think it deserves a lot more praise than it really gets. The game's plot is essentially an abridged version of the show, missing a few points in the series here and there, but ultimately hitting all the key moments. For those who don't know, Dragon Ball is about a mountain boy named Goku after he meets a girl from the city named Bulma. The two are seeking 7 magical orbs that when gathered summon an omnipotent dragon demigod named Shenron that can grant any single wish you desire. However, naturally with such objects existing, a variety of evil factions also seek them out, such as the Red Ribbon Army and the Pilaf Empire, and plan to use them for their own dastardly desires. Eventually, one such group, led by the imp named Pilaf, end up resurrecting the evil Demon King Piccolo, who once threw the world into chaos, and is now seeking the Dragon Balls in order to regain his bygone youth. The plot is simple, but the show's strong points are the characters and the sheer sense of adventure. Something this game captures in spades. The gameplay primarily revolves around beating up enemies and platforming. The action in this game is great. You have a small variety of moves, but they never get too stale since they have a variety of uses. Like, you could simply just hurt an opponent with Goku's jump kick, or you could use it to kick back his grenades. And the combo potential in this game is actually pretty nuts. It's almost fighting game level. You don't expect this from a 2D side-scroller. As for the platforming, it's perfect. Goku controls just as well as the likes of Mario, Donkey Kong, and Mega Man, and the platforming tends to be probably one of the easier parts about the game, but it does have its fair share of tricky jumps. I think the reason why the platforming is so good though, and so easy, is mostly due to Goku's physics. You see, in a lot of games, like Castlevania, they add a delay to make the platforming seem harder than it really is. But here, Goku jumps as soon as your thumb hits the A button. No delay, no wait, nothing. The controls are almost perfect. I say almost because, well, running is a bit of a hassle. There's never too many times where you need to sprint, but when you do, I find that double tapping the D-pad rarely works as well as it should. I've tried it with other games and it worked just fine in those, but here there's a little bit of a lag. Sometimes Goku would start running about a second and a half after the second press of the D-pad, and this would cause me to overshoot even the simplest of jumps. Aside from that though, the controls are superb. Along with the usual side-scrolling levels, you got some flying levels that take place on Goku's Nimbus Cloud, and some one-on-one fighting levels. The Nimbus levels aren't too different from the normal levels, but the fighting levels are actually really neat, and I think they are the highlight of the game. They take on the guise of a fighting game, albeit a really simple one. There's not much depth or strategy here, and you're not going to be learning meaties or mix-ups or wave dashing, nothing like that. But it's fun, which is more than I can say for Final Fucking Bout. God, I just hate that game so much that it makes me want to go back in time and punch the director straight in his stupid shitty game-making dick. Bitter? Mwah? Despite the simplicity, it is fun. You and your opponent pretty much try to deplete each other's guard gauges, the green bar up in the corner. Without this being empty, you cannot do any damage whatsoever, so a lot of the time it's you and your opponent throwing punches and parrying in an attempt to catch the other with their pants down. From here you don't have too many options. You can either send them to the other side of the screen or launch them straight up into the air like they were loaded off a goddamn spring, and then send them careening face first back down into the ground that they were so desperately wishing was beneath them not even 5 seconds ago. It is very satisfying. And that's the key word here, satisfying. The reason why this simple fighting game is fun, yet Final Bout isn't, is because this game is satisfying. As a Dragon Ball fan, it gives me the speed I expect from the series, but at the same time, the hits all feel like they have impact, and the opponent does a lot more than just spam fireballs. And as a fighting game fan, it gives me enough depth. You're not going to get third strike out of this, but you're not getting final bout out of this, and that itself is a good thing. Hell, so in a way, this simple fighting game actually does have quite a bit of depth. Mostly stemming from how it teaches you basic mechanics that can be applied to stuff like Street Fighter and Tekken. Which is more than I can say about Anal Fucking Shout. And my god, what a perfect way to mock the title. To tap into my inner AVGN, this game is... Okay, this review isn't about Final Bout. Let's try to be like the rest of the world and forget that ungodly sack of whale jizz even exists. Now let's talk about the story itself. The story mode retells the general plot of the show as mentioned before, but cuts out a few key things. For example, Android 8 never appears, Yamcha doesn't follow the group, and you only have to fight General Blue once, which is a shame because I loved General Blue. He's like, what if all of the village people got really buff and had psychic powers, and a fetish for dressing up as Nazis? And hey, any game that lets you punch Nazis, okay by me. You even get to fight in the tournaments, which end way differently than they do in the show. And you do actually get to unlock quite a few characters for that one-on-one fighting mode that you can actually play separately from the main story. I like that a lot, but the only problem I really have with that is that there's characters you fight in the story mode in the one-on-one fighting levels that you don't unlock in the game. Like, you don't unlock Giran, you don't unlock Nam, you don't unlock... Chaozu, I think, is the one that you don't unlock. And I think that's really stupid because I would have loved to have seen them as playable characters in the one-on-one fighting mode, especially Nam, because I think he's a character that is way underutilized. And they heavily censored him in the English release. Way to go. Eventually you get to the last level, which largely has you beating up Piccolo's goons. As you storm through them all, you come to the green Goliath himself, Piccolo. And he's quite a challenge. I mean, I didn't die against him, but that doesn't make him an easy fight. I can assure you that on higher difficulties, you will be well below half health by the time you beat him. But if you persevere, you get to see what is the most bizarre death in all of anime. Goku punching through Piccolo, and then he explodes. I guess Namekians are extremely volatile. I mean, what, is their blood made out of plastic explosive or something? I mean, he explodes after being punched through. That is odd. I mean, what causes the explosion? Was the sheer awesomeness of the kill too much for his meek body to handle? There's no explanation for it. It just happens. And it's just as strange in the show as it is in the game. Regardless, he isn't as prone as exploding as most feminists are. My one feminist joke. After beating the game, you're rewarded with the ability to play as Krillin in story mode, and you know this is actually a reward. I mean, most times, if a game says, hey, you beat the game, you can now play as Krillin, most people will be like, oh my god, really? Really? This is what I get? But no, Krillin is actually really good in this. I mean, Krillin, of course, has his own set of abilities, including the solar flare and even a goddamn double jump. And he can do this. Yeah. If you do it to more than 2 enemies at once, the game slows down, almost like it can't handle the awesomeness of a bald midget kicking 3 guys straight upwards and then sending them screaming back down into the ground. That is funny. After you unlock Krillin, there's a whopping 28 other characters for you to unlock, including Yamcha, Tien, Piccolo, and even some of the generic mooks. The sheer amount of content in this game is actually really impressive, and honestly, I didn't expect it. I mean, I knew it was there, but I still didn't expect it. That's pretty good. I'll wrap this up shortly, but overall, I feel that Dragon Ball Advanced Adventure is one of the best games to bear the Dragon Ball name, if not the absolute best. So I guess if I had to say one last thing about the game, is that it's easily a classic that I'd put up on my shelf, along with the likes of Bayonetta 2 and Smash Brothers and all those other great games that sort of came out of nowhere and ended up being really good. If you can find a copy of the game and have a Game Boy Advance, I suggest picking it up. It's good. Like, orgasmic even. Yeah, that's enough out of me.
You have 2 balls. They're very important, and they're hidden in your clothes.
Huh? Oh, wow! She's right again, guys.
Young man, may I see them, please?
Why not? There!